Just a few kind of pointers about things I've been doing, priorities that have been emerging in the course of the last few months, and things that are lined up for the next 12 months. So I'll just take you through it. First of all, I should introduce myself. Rachel Cowgill, research theme for creativity, theme champion for creativity. I'm a professor of music, and I am very much engrossed and involved in the historical and cultural side of music. So I call myself a musicologist. Musicology is the branch of music studies. People wonder why we put the ology on the end, but it's to signal that there's kind of the points of connection with other disciplines within the arts and humanities. So it was a real pleasure to have the opportunity to pick up the theme of creativity as one of the new research theme champions. So I'm just going to take you through some of the priorities that have emerged. These are priorities that have been featuring in conversations that I've been having, like all of the research theme champions. We've been going into meetings, so research committee meetings, staff meetings, meetings of research centres, interdisciplinary research centres, to introduce ourselves, but also to find out as much as we can, more than we can actually find by just browsing the pages of Pure, about what people are actually doing, what grants are coming in, what people's ideas are, what the sparks of an idea might be that we can help to facilitate and grow and develop into project networks and grant applications and, of course, outcomes. So I'll just take you through these four themes. So I don't think it's a surprise to anyone to hear how drastically COVID-19 has impacted upon the creative economy, which contributed over £10 billion to the UK's income economy before COVID. And of course, particularly freelancers in the creative industries have been hit very badly, many of whom have been left without income, had to find in rapid circumstances, had to find alternative means of earning a living. And many have very sadly left the areas of specialism that they dedicated their professional lives to achieving in. So one of the things that's emerged as a real priority within creativity is for the university to do what it can through its research activities and impact and engagement to help to rebuild the creative industries and creative entrepreneurship post-COVID. So this has been coming out through partnership working and co-production, focusing on tourism, heritage and culture, working creatively at the new ways that we can be presenting, developing and raising the profile of heritage and culture and the creative heritage at our disposal. Placemaking, of course, that agenda has become very much a part of how we are looking at the development of creativity and the rebuilding of creativity after COVID. Creativity of itself, of course, has emerged as a really important aspect of people's well-being and coping mechanisms through lockdowns. So there's a very interesting kind of coming together of those two things, which has been emerging very strongly as a theme in the discussions I've had so far. Part of this has been to do with, of course, a community, but also improving diversity and inclusion. And really, it feeds in very strongly, in my sense, towards and in the discussions around this idea that we have been embracing at the university for the public good. Additionally, we have collaborative creativity, or creativities, which really emphasizes the interdisciplinary possibilities across campus. Many of us have been working interdisciplinarily for a long time, but this is, of course, often through individuals making connections. And it's not always so easy to find out who else is working in areas that perhaps don't directly duplicate ours, but that brush up against them in really creative and interesting ways. So points of connection with other scholars and other researchers working across campus that help to add new dimensions and to enrich the discussions we have around our own research. So interdisciplinarity is right at the forefront of that, as indeed our partnerships. Digital creativities, of course, working with our technological and computer science colleagues, looking at new ways of working collaboratively in creative work. Creative processes and problem solving, again, is another aspect of that. So this idea that we can solve some of the most pressing issues of our time by coming together across the boundaries of disciplines and working interdisciplinarily in teams with different methods, mixed methods approaches. So critical creativities, again, this is very much to do with our ideas about creativity, how creativity has been understood and practiced through time and across different cultures. Critical practice, of course, through creativity and creative research is a really important part of this. And I'd also want to flag up disruptive creativities, the creativities of hacking, for example, with new data and exploring different aspects of what data can do for us. Gender and creativity, of course, still needs constant revision and critique, as does the processes that we're engaged with in decolonizing our research practice, as well as our learning and teaching across campus. And I'd like to emphasize, of course, the place of individual creativity in critical creativities. It's really important for us to celebrate what the lone scholar and the lone practitioner can achieve, as well as the collaborative group network and multifaceted projects that we also celebrate. And then the last one there, curating creativity, celebrates new or promotes new approaches to curation, mediation and presentation. So how we curate creative products or things, and also how we do that creatively. So there's two sides to that discussion, and that's very much focused around archives, our cultural collections on campus, our arts collections on campus, and the ethics of openness and collecting and presenting to a broader public. So I just want to take you through some of the things that I've been doing. That's a summary of the priorities that have emerged in those conversations. There's a lot of text on here, but I'll just take you through a few points. So first of all, back in April, at the start of our time as the new research theme champions, I did a time to talk session around the theme Creativity, the City and a University for the Public Good. And that was a fantastic event. There was an incredibly positive and supportive and ideas-packed response from colleagues who came along to that. And there were many ideas and dialogues that stemmed from it. And I'm still following those up from the Jamboard. So it was a really, really exciting session. And some of the things that came from that have enabled me to take quite a few steps over the last few months to really get some new initiatives off the ground. And most importantly, new connections, networks and ideas. So I've become part of the York Cultural Leaders Forum, as many of our university colleagues are aware. That this is a group of organisation leaders, CEOs and cultural leaders who are working together to bring York to a greater profile and to higher prominence, and to make more of what York is all about, and to make life in York for everybody who lives here and around a very positive, exciting and creative experience. So that's been a wonderful network to be part of, and it has opened up new connections for me to develop potential partnerships and active partnerships with organisations in and around our city and region. And as part of that, we put together a series of bids to the Community Renewal Fund, which still is actually a government scheme, treasury money that was put aside to support projects that would enhance employability in areas right across Britain, and also do a great deal to try and mend some of the damage that has been caused by the pandemic, and thinking about areas which are severely disadvantaged and where investment, particularly in creative and community projects, could make a big difference. We ended up putting a series of proposals into the City of York Council and also North Yorkshire County Council along the theme of creative entrepreneurship. These are the ones that came from my particular part of the research theme champion scheme. And they very much were brought together by this idea of working co-creatively with culture and heritage organisations in the city. So Street Life, for example, that came from Heritage 360, Thin Ice Press, and Intermuse, which is a project I lead as part of the music department's research activities. And Street Life is about using the historic streets of York as a source of inspiration to increase people's awareness, enjoyment and understanding creatively of the history, the living history in and around them as they go through daily life and you know, we were focusing on Coney Street, so it's the kind of big shopping street in York, but it has so much history, and there were various aspects to this project that would bring that out and really celebrate it creatively. So street life, we hope, fingers crossed, that that will come through, as indeed the other bids that went in there. Digital Dracula, which came from the music department, sadly that didn't go forward into the North Yorkshire bid, but all the other aspects of projects that are listed there went through into the 2 bids that went in from North Yorkshire and the City of York Council. We're still waiting for the responses. And I could just like to point out there the small and mighty at the end there. This was a project that was proposed by Rydale Museums, and a co-investigator in that is the Institute for the Public Understanding of the Past. So again, that's a really interesting relationship that was established through that bid. And even if the bids aren't all successful, it'd be fantastic if they were, it'd be fantastic if any of them were, but they have really initiated important conversations across the city, which generate new research outcomes, but also impact and public engagement in all sorts of exciting and interesting ways. So other things that have been coming through include conversations around the social and cultural value of creativity. I think we can probably understand why that was. And a network has been emerging around, for example, the social value of music, led by some of the thinking of Craig Robertson, our colleague in Arts and Humanities Research Management. We've been working with him, and also looking at possibilities of working with REACH, which is the York Cultural Education Partnership. There's a lot of work been going with schools and education work across the community to really help to create new opportunities coming out of the pandemic that help to level up, if I can use that word, or at least open access and address some of the inequalities which have been troubling cities for many, many years. Homelessness and social justice. Again, this discussion sort of started to develop around the community renewal bids process. This one is a very exciting opportunity, and I'm working closely with, well, in all of these projects, actually working closely with my fellow research team champions. So this is Nicholas in social justice and inequalities, and Richard in risk, evidence and decision making, and working with Paul Greedy and the Centre for Applied Human Rights around ideas to do with the Poverty Truth Commission, whereby the experience and social difficulties around homelessness, our creative methods and creative work helps to move forward the discussion and dialogue around those issues towards something that addresses the inequalities that we're all aware of. I'd also like to highlight the work that I've been doing with Dan and Mark, Technologies of the Future, around sound and technology. Again, Craig has been an important help here in facilitating this. This is a network which is going to bring together projects that are already funded or may be funded or are still in development, and where it all kind of starts to build with kind of critical mass of research in this area. It'll involve schools outreach and workshops, and it will feed into the Festival of Ideas next year. So a bit more on that on my next slide. And of course, picking up the mantle, if it is, of creativity from Damien Murphy has been a really great thing to do, but also quite a challenging one to do, considering how amazingly successful he's been and his colleagues in Digital Creativities. And my role has been to support and facilitate and take that forward as much as I can to help contribute to that. But also, I think, to emphasize that the Digital Creativities team and projects and colleagues of Digital Creativities are very keen to collaborate right across campus. So whatever your area of discipline, I'm sure there are projects there in which Digital Creativities and the team in Digital Creativities would have very interesting, fresh and exciting new things to contribute. Now, of course, we're stabilising Digital Creativities in the title of the new school, Digital Creativity and the Performing Arts. So in addition to that, I've been part of conversations with colleagues in the city looking towards what we might be doing to develop a bid towards or making the most of our place within the UNESCO network of creative cities, which of course York is a part. So it's actually quite difficult to sort of pull out these strands because they're all deeply interconnected with those 4 priorities that I've talked about. But just to say, part of what I've been doing has been those dialogues with colleagues in departments and in research committees, but also to participate in boot camps, helping people to develop their bids, helping people to grow their ideas or make connections across campus. And also and emphasising the importance and value of postdoctoral investment in postdoctoral and early career researchers as they're starting to sort of pick up momentum around their future research ideas and activities. I've been really keen to make sure that I'm doing what I can there. Still a lot of room to do more. And on that note, so I'll just outline a few of the things that are lined up for the next 12 months. Obviously, situations will change. New ideas are coming through all the time. New opportunities for funding are coming through all the time, of course. But here are a few things that are on the cards. We have a discussion event lined up for the 13th of July, 2 till 4 o'clock. If anybody's around and interested in contributing to this, I really welcome your ideas and presence. This is an event to discuss what a collaboration between Explore York and the Borthwick, University of York, could bring us in terms of research outreach and impact. Of course, York's libraries and archives are farmed out from the council. They're kind of contracted out, and they have a 15-year contract to run the archives and libraries in York under the heading of Explore York. We've been having some fantastic discussions with Explore York and the Borthwick on how archives in the city, in which York is incredibly rich, can be working together and working creatively, how we can be more creative about presenting and opening access to our cultural collections, and also how the network of libraries in communities across the city and the region can become portals for members of the community to access creative experiences and to sort of take part in creative and cultural activities that could take them off in new directions, and also address issues around digital exclusion, for example. So if that sounds interesting, and I hope it does, please do come along on the 13th of July. There will be more information coming around about that, and we'll have representatives from Explore York and the Borthwick and researchers in the university talking about their perspectives on that theme and what might be possible. Working with Stephanie and Keith, our Cultures and Communications research theme champions, I've been participating in discussions around decolonising research, and I'm very committed to that, and I'd like to see that forming a really important part of how creative research works at the University of York and its contribution to these broader themes. And also, I think it's important for me to be raising the profile of the University of York's art and cultural collections. I do that in my own research, but again, this is partly to do with the conversation with Explore York and the Borthwick. We have such fine things in our archives that have potentially such enriching things to contribute to communities of researchers, communities of residents in our area, and our students and staff. So that's something I'm really, really keen to develop. 2022 is the bicentenary of the death of William Herschel. And we're going to, working with Dan and Mark, Technologies for the Future champions, I'm going to be working on a series of projects around music and astronomy, and more broadly celebrating interdisciplinary creativity across the arts and sciences. Back in Herschel's time, of course, it didn't make any sense for the arts and sciences to be divided. He, I think, would have been quite perplexed by the way we organise our disciplines on campus today. But, you know, back then, of course, he was a very fine musician, Hanoverian by birth, who came to Britain and established himself as a gifted musician and composer, but also a great astronomer, working with his sister, of course. And there are issues there about how we kind of look at gender and creativity. But I think what's hopefully going to be really inspiring about this is to look at what Herschel represents in a year of workshops, school outreach, and feeding into the Festival of Ideas as well. And we're really excited that Tom McLeish should be happy to speak on that theme at the next year's Festival of Ideas. Of course, there's also a history element to that too. There are some letters that have just emerged that Herschel wrote during his time in Yorkshire in the 1760s. So there could be scope to do a project around Herschel's Yorkshire, which could be quite exciting as well. Other things around street cultures, disruptive creativities, collaborative creativities. I'm thinking, I haven't yet talked to anybody about this, but I'm thinking about bringing together a network of people looking at street cultures, looking at dance, music and graffiti, with colleagues in history of art and elsewhere at Temple University in the States, busking, traditions of busking, broadly, internationally, but also a particular York aspect of that tradition and culture. Of course, dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic and the ongoing pandemic, of course, there are going to be opportunities to work with creative arts and well-being. And we've had conversations, Karen and I, around possibilities of the university scholars working and practitioners working in well-being in the arts to be involved in some way around the social prescribing programme. And a lot of this is also to do with opening access to creative therapies, supporting community music groups. And a particularly lovely aspect of what the Festival of Ideas have done this year is the creation of bags of creativity. So packs of creative tools, games, downloads, that kind of exciting material, which has been given out to over 2,000 school children across York. Much of it sort of generated and originating in research here at the University of York. So Festival of Ideas and Reach together are very keen to sort of work with our researchers to scale that up, because the donors apparently are increasing in number, wanting to support that particular activity. And then finally, a photography competition. We have so much exciting research at the University of York. Various ideas have come in from colleagues to suggest that a photograph competition could be a really exciting way of encapsulating vibrant and innovative images of aspects of the research we do at the University of York. And I'll put creative in brackets, creative research at the University of York. These could be used, if we hold the competition, we could be exhibiting a long list of the photographs that come in at the new Guildhall. It could be part of a digital exhibition. It could also be part of how the university communicates its vibrant and exciting, innovative research community into the broader audiences beyond campus. So I put "and" question mark at the end because there are so many other possibilities, and I'm hoping people would be in touch with me and would talk to me about areas that they would like to propose, or see whether there's opportunities or similar activities and energy happening across campus that they could connect with. I'm really open to that. This isn't by any means an exhaustive list. It's something that's hopefully gathering steam, and I'm really enjoying and hoping that it's contributing some really important work to what the university is doing at the moment and going on into the future. So thank you very much.